NXT got vinced. If no one, and I repeat, there are people that still come to my channel who still don't understand what I'm talking about when I say the show is vinced, or that the show doesn't make any sense. It's off. Look at what just happened on this episode of NXT. Only what? A week away from the Great American Bash. 1 week away. It's on the 30th. I had to check because I forgot. All the stuff that's been going on with so much wrestling. Haven't been able to keep up with all of it. But the 30th of this month is the Great American Bash. And we just got this here. Right here. If you don't understand when Vince McMahon interjects himself, listen to this review. Opening. What did we get for the opening? We got the opening with Carmelo Hayes dealing with Dragunov. Ilya Dragunov. The guy who basically costed the match for a Carmelo Hayes. He didn't really cost the match. This was all Judgment Day. This was now the second time that Carmelo Hayes jobbed someone on the main roster for no reason. None. If you don't understand, listen to what I'm about to say. Right now, they're trying to sell their match at Great American Bash. And Dragunov's being respectful to Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes is being respectful back. Basically, Carmelo Hayes is saying, look, I take you seriously. And I know that this match is going to be one of the best matches I know. And I'm not taking you lightly. But I'm not going to miss. And pretty much, Dragunov made it very clear, you already have missed. Now, yes, Carmelo Hayes did cover that in the very beginning with a Trick Williams by his side. But the point is this. Was it necessary? Is Carmelo Hayes heading to the main roster? No. He's not. I doubt he's heading to the main roster. Now, if he does, I'm fine. You could say below in the comments on the Great American Bash, if he does lose to Dragunov, and maybe the next week after that, he's no longer on the main roster, that's fine. I'm wrong. I'll eat crow. But as it stands right now, for what they've accomplished here, before the Great American Bash, before SummerSlam for that matter, you literally just made Carmelo Hayes' job twice for no reason. If he does not go to the main roster after the Great American Bash, this made no sense for him to job and to have this interaction with Dragunov because of Judgment Day. It made no sense. None. Now, let's move on. First match. The re-debuting, because when we got Angel Garza and Alberto Carrillo, we haven't seen them both on that roster for quite a while. This is like a reintroducing of them. And they went up against, well, how can I say this? Seeing this tag team makes no sense. Seeing Franks and Dragon, it's not really a real tag team. They don't feel like a tag team. They feel like they were just slapped together because of circumstance. And the match was fine. I've always known Angel Garza to be very good as a mat-based wrestler. He's good. And then you see Carrillo, who looks way better with a mustache and beard. He didn't look like he's himself without having some roughage on his face. He just seems off. Not because it looks like a kid, but he just feels like he's off. They lost the match. And now supposedly, as they're re-debuting on the NXT roster, now they're having an attitude that Garza getting shoved off onto the floor and Carrillo's mad at him for that. After this is their first match back in NXT. For no reason, why would you have them job and then one get pissed off at the other for getting beat? They should have won their match. It wouldn't have hurt Frazier and it wouldn't have hurt Dragon Lee. You had no reason to do it. If you really wanted them to be separated, you should have never brought them back as a tag team. What was the point? None. There was no point. So here you go, guys. Here's another bit of proof that you see that two guys who are on the main roster for a while, and a Alberto Carrillo and Angel Garza, who are good tag team together. They never got anywhere in the main. You see, I'm repeating myself because this is the things that piss me off. You have them on the main roster. You did nothing with them. You decided to bring them back for NXT. Instead of separating them before you did it, you let them have the re-debut match as a tag team, and then you have a bad attitude, which makes you think, are they breaking up, which shouldn't even have to be thought of. They should have won the match. Let's move on. We now have, let me give it to you like this. Gigi Golan versus Kiana James. Who did I believe was going to win? Kiana James. Who do I think is more substantial? Kiana James. Who I believe will do something great if they push her? Kiana James. Who do I like more? Gigi Golan. I like Gigi. She does have a certain attitude I like. I do believe she's worth something, but I'd never expect her to beat a Kiana James. This is Gigi. This is Kiana. That is the deal. When you see JC James, who's going to be dealing with Valkyria, because Valkyria got a little talk from a little bit of Rhea Ripley, I'll talk about in a minute. But seeing that Valkyria jobbed out to JC James, who is now higher. Here's Gigi Golan. Here's JC James. That's the deal. I'm not against either one of them. I'm just seeing them for their raw talent, for how they've done their promos, how they've been booked. It has been Gigi Golan, JC James. And now you're doing what you're doing with Valkyria, trying to make her mean something when she doesn't mean much because her character sucks. She's a good wrestler. She has a good attitude that could be made into something. I'd rather see Valkyria as not a mythical creature. I'm just saying. Third match. Axiom and Scripps versus Priest and Neiman. I believe his name is Bronco Neiman. That's one hell of a name. Now, this happened early in the night, where they met one another, and pretty much Scripps and Axiom didn't like the attitude. He didn't like it. Well, I should be taking that back. Scripps didn't like it because he didn't want Axiom, his friend, being disrespected, so he lined the match up for them. But Axiom saying, dude, what are you doing? You know, I appreciate you. In this match, I'm looking forward to it working with you. But we're not a tag team. Why didn't you ask me first? That's all he asked. This is supposedly the second time this happened. Because of Adama Kimbo. And that situation there. So let's make this very short. The new guys on the block said debuting. Two big I think they're both linebackers. One might be a linebacker, one might be a wide receiver, I think. Pretty much. They looked green. But it doesn't mean they don't have some talent. But you can see that this was going to be heavily skewed to them. And guess what happened? You got Scripps nailing in the back of the head Axiom. And why? No explanation other than possibly one that is not even hinted to. And that is Scripps wanted to make sure Axiom was in his corner always. And by Axiom saying, oh, you should have asked me first, pisses off Scripps and then nails him because of that. And now supposedly with Priest and Neiman, he walks away with them, which makes no sense. Scripps is not supposed to be at this time a manager, but someone decided, okay, Scripps is a great wrestler because you see him doing backflips and forward flips, but I want to see him as a manager. And now Scripps, what is he going to start working with Priest and Neiman? That is because he walks away with them. They didn't want to. If they didn't like him, they should have walked away separate. They all walked away together. Why? There's no setup for it. There's no reason for it. Except one. That got fenced. You can't deny it. And if anybody says below, and I know there's one person that says, why is this bad? Why did this go? I'm explaining it to you, my friend. If you must understand, I got to say this, guys. There's one person that is new. And he's either not watched wrestling for a long time or he's new to wrestling. And he asks, why? I'm explaining it to you. when it comes to this new tag team, when it comes to Priest and Naman, they have shown no interest in scripts. Zero interest. None. Because they haven't had any video packages with him. They never talked to him. They never done anything with him. But guess what? All of a sudden now, he's willing to betray Axiom, a friend now that he used to have a feud with, used to have a fight with. They seem to work out their differences. Adabakindo was a guy that messed with them both. And they both were willing to work together to nail him. They also did another work. I can't remember when they had another match before that, after that. But the point is, they worked together. There's been no attitude. Nothing until now. And instead of setting it up, taking a couple of weeks, maybe at least a week, and you at least set it up for a week. So at least when you break up scripts and when you break up Axiom, at least working on and off together as friends, it would make sense. None of that. It is just broken up instantly, and then for no reason other than just walking with them, which made no sense. They should have nailed scripts no better than they should have nailed Axiom. This is what we get. Next. Thorpe. Maybe I should wait for Thorpe. Let's do Thea versus Elektra Lopez. I gotta say this when it comes to Elektra Lopez. I love her intro. I don't know about anybody else. I love the music for her intro. I have not been able to find it anywhere other than one clip where there's voices in the background. It's not shown anywhere, at least not yet. And I want that music because I like it. Do I believe Elektra is a good wrestler? She's okay. Do I believe she's a beautiful woman? Yes, she is. Now she's working with a former MMA fighter. Sounds familiar. That's what they do. I don't remember her name right now off my head. But they currently have a very thick, vivacious woman who can wrestle to a certain extent, who is a great talker in Elektra Lopez. She can talk really well. Now working with someone who's been in the Performance Center a little bit, who's now been working in this new MMA fighter, well, former MMA fighter. I don't know her name. I just know that she came out to the ring, and pretty much I knew Elektra wasn't going to win here because of how well they've been booking Thea Hall. Thea of Chase U I liked her, and as I said, I like Thea. She has something good, and she's still very young, so the question is going to be, would they actually push her? And from what I can tell, they were willing to let her win a match against Elektra Lopez and be so hyped and so like this. She calls out the champ. The champ comes out. And guys, have you recognized something, a little bit of a trend when it comes to the women who's supposed to be badass? Like Bianca Belair, as well as Charlotte Flair, and now Tiffany Stratton. Have you noticed they're wearing the same style of clothes? With the same almost style of shoes? That seems very cookie cutter. They've been vinced. Usually, understand, to make women stand out in wrestling, each of them usually would have something that gives them something special that you would be interested in. Valkyria has the feathers. When it comes to Tiffany Stratton, she's always been a valley girl, kind of like a preppy girl. And I would expect her to come out in a dress, something. When it comes to other members on the roster, like Elektra Lopez or even a Kiana James, they have a certain style. Kiana James is a mogul, like a corporate mogul, who's also a model, who has more of a style of a person who's in corporate, even though she can model any type of damn thing she wants. She dresses as corporate. And when it comes to Elektra Lopez, she thinks she's extravagant, almost to the point of being like an exotic dancer. But look at Tiffany Stratton. She's dressed almost exactly the same way as Bianca Belair has been dressing lately, and as Charlotte Flair has been dressing lately. Tight clothes, either very, very light colored or very, very dark colored. That is mostly see-through. That is very cookie color. Very cookie cutter. Boring. I'd rather see Tiffany coming out in an extravagant dress, showing how hot, sexy, and how important she is. This is what makes Vince, or being vinced, important to understand. There is things that can be done to make a person look different, or it's something that could be a standard that someone wants. Let's move on. Because just saying simply, Thea got her to tap out and to agree not only to a match, but to a submission match. She got her to admit to a match, but then had to put a Kimura on her to get to do a submission match. There you go. Now let's kind of stick with the theme of Cookie Cutter. We had a short segment of Dana Brooke with Jordan. I can't remember her name. Camilla or Cameron or Camilla. I can't remember her name right now. I'll eventually get her name if I see her enough. But Jordan basically doing tumbles and exercising with Dana Brooke in gymnastics. What did I tell you? These women are very similar to each other. When you look at Sorika, she's a high-trained tumbler and gymnast. When you look at, I believe Dana Brooke used to be a gymnast as well as a cheerleader, and C.A. Jordan looks like she's pretty much the same thing. And they're now showing you what they do to try and set up a match between Jordan and maybe not Jordan, but I think they may come again when it comes to Cora Jade and Jordan. But it's going to be Cora Jade versus, again, a Dana Brooke. And you're seeing exactly what they want you to see. These women are basically either gymnasts and cheerleaders. That's what they are. That's what they want you to see. They don't want you to see that they can be more than that, to be wrestlers. They want you to see what they are from the very beginning and what Vince wanted. I wouldn't have done that. I'm going to tell you right now, me personally, I would have not allowed that to happen. You can always accentuate what they once were, but you're supposed to make them pro wrestlers. You're supposed to focus on their mat skills, at least to make the match look good so people would care. You got to make them talk. Make them sound good when they talk, because talking on the mic and sounding good on the mic are two different things. It's two. If you think it isn't, you don't understand, because someone could be a partner with someone and they can talk once in a while when it's necessary, and then you got others who can lead that conversation in that promo to make it interesting. Just saying. All right. We got a very weird one right here. Eddie Thorpe versus Mesha. Where are they going with Noam Dar? That's my question. Where are they going with Noam Dar? He loses the Heritage Cup. He loses everything. But what does this mean? Why? They need to elaborate on this, because when it comes to Metaphor, and I do remember the name of the faction now, Metaphor, you need to know what these people are going to be doing. And it's a big question. How far are they going to push Noam Dar being completely nostalgic because he doesn't have his Heritage Cup anymore? Where are they going with him? I don't know. I think someone, you know who I'm talking about, saw him and say, oh, this guy's a good wrestler, but he can't talk for shit. Let's make him act totally brain dead because he doesn't have his damn cup. That's good shit. I had to do it. I'm sorry. That's a running gag when it comes to Vince McMahon. But in this situation, it kind of fits. Over one, due to the fact of interference from Noam Dar being put into the ring, and Dijak nailing Thorpe while the match was going on, due to the fact that he doesn't like that Thorpe thinks he's such a hot shit because he did NXT Underground. I had to do it like that. I'm sorry. I can't stand NXT Underground. That was garbage. Garbage. But this is what we got. Now let's talk a little bit about should I even talk about Gable Stevenson? Honestly, I'm going to leave that. I know he has to make a decision, but I'm not going to speculate on any of it. None of it. I'm leaving it. That's it. I'm just going to leave it. let me see here. What's left? The final thing we're going to talk about. The NXT North American Championship. Dirty Dom versus Wesley. This was not about how good the match was or how bad the match was. This was about the decision made. Guys, what do we actually have here? Do we have a really bad North American champion in Wesley? No. He was charismatic. He can go in the ring. People liked him a lot on NXT. No problem. A lot of people like him. A lot of people believe that he can be something. And then you have Dirty Dom, who never went to NXT. Let's make this clear. Not one day did he go. His father wanted him on the main roster. I'm sorry. I love Ray. I do. He's always going to be one of the top wrestlers in history. He is. But he made the most stupidest mistake, letting his son go on the main roster. He did. And I'm not taking anything away from Dom. He worked his ass off to become who he is today. But do I believe he should have been on the main roster when he had no real experience? No. He should have been in NXT. Even if he had to be brought up maybe a year or so early, at least he would have had the basics. And if he screwed up, at least it'll look fine. It took him a long time. It's been over 2 years. And it took a while for him to really make himself in those 2 years. Not saying it's been 2 years since he came to the roster. It's been longer than that. But the point is, the last 2 years, he had to work his ass. Even a year and a half. He had to bust his ass to try and become something interesting. To be cared about. Because he tried his best as a face. And it just flopped. So when he switched over to a heel. And he had to work on that. Because he just didn't fit it. Now he does. When we got this was about Dom finally getting a title that doesn't interfere with Damian Priest or Finn Balor. That's what this is about. Now, mind you, when they opened up talking about who's about to face who, there was canned heat for Dom. If anybody doesn't think there wasn't canned heat for Dom, right before the match happened, there was canned heat. When they said, now the challenger Dominic Mysterio, the voices got so loud. That was canned heat. Remember, that area is not that big. It's not that big. They don't have a lot of people in that arena. And I'm not saying they didn't boo him. They did. But there was canned heat. Flat out. And the match itself was fine. Dom did a decent job. Mommy, the lovely Rhea Ripley did her part, particularly nailing a Wesley in the face. You got Finn helping out. You got Damian Priest helping out. And in the end, Dom now wins. And he has a title. Now we got 2 titles in the Judgment Day. And 1 guy with Money in the Bank. Eventually, they will have to come to heads. If Finn wins, you're going to have a story where you're going to have Finn dealing with Damian Priest eventually. Because there's no way they're going to do that with Roman Reigns. They're just not. Because of what's going on with Jey Uso. So eventually, you're going to have a Damian Priest face-to-face with a Finn sooner or later about that damn title. It will eventually happen. It won't happen now, but it'll happen later. But the show got vinced. And let's make this clear. I'm not done yet. Because the most important thing here needs to be stated when it came to the family of Dom and the underboss. Tony D'Angelo and Stacks should have never happened. I'm going to tell you right now, the segment setting up for Gallus to go up against as a tag team, seeing that Tony D's family was there with crowbars ready to beat the crap out of them because I think they just had a small billy club like what Holland would use, and that was Joe Coffey holding one. They all had crowbars. You can see the stark difference of people who are from Ireland who would use like a club or shillelagh compared to people like from the United States who don't give a damn. They're not going to use a club or shillelagh. They're going to use a freaking crowbar and wrap it around your head. That is the way it is. But the point of this, what I'm saying right now, the video package they showed explained why Stacks did what he did, how he did it, why he did it, setting up the Gallus boys to get tricked. Fine. All of this was perfectly fine. But I'm going to say right now, it should not have been done here. It should have never been done here. What should have happened is this, guys. This is the way it should have happened. What should have happened, the match that happened on TV last week should never happened. It should have happened at the Great American Bash. They only had to wait 2 weeks to set up a match between Joe Coffey and Stacks, the Underboss. And the win would have been at the Great American Bash. That would have been the best time to do it. But no, they decided to do it early. They pulled the trigger early. Or should I say, Vince pulled the trigger early, because I don't think HBK wanted to do it early. The way he set it up was very well done. No matter if Tony D was injured, he was off doing some TV or something, and they kept him off TV all this time since May, which was great. Or hopefully he's healed if he was hurt. The point is, they only had to wait 2 weeks to pull the match. And then the next Tuesday, that was only a few days later, Tony D could have been produced. And then they could have set up for the tag team match for the NXT Tag Championship. That would have made more sense than this. And I know many people would say, dude, why not? Why not have it at the Great American Bash, the tag title match? Well, guess what? Wouldn't it have been more fun to see that match happened? That Tony D was finally freed on a premium live event. Like Mr. Carmelo Hayes. You see him getting pissed. Carmelo Hayes saying, I'm the PLE of WWE. The premium live event, man. I'm telling you now. This show is Vince. I don't believe it was HBK that booked this. It was Vince who told him to make it done, and HBK is doing his best to try and make something out of it, because this sucked. This sucked. I'm not saying that everything there was bad, but it sucked because a lot of this could have been built up at the pay-per-view. I'm just saying. Peace. And even Dom as well as Wesley could have happened at the pay-per-view. It did not need to happen here. Peace.